Hello, my friends, and welcome to another book review with Johnny Boy. Today, we are going to discuss the Midnight Marquee Actors series, Bela Lugosi, edited by Gary J. and Susan Svehla. So, this Midnight Marquee Actors series is it's like a collection of essays or articles written by various people in the industry or in the critique, in the people who've put out horror books, people who have written articles about horror, people who historians of the subject. So it's not like a book written by one person. There's no like cohesive narrative per se, but it does. This one goes chronologically, more or less, from early films to his last films. And it discusses the films. From my research, it's hard to find a good Bela Lugosi biography. If you guys know about one, let me know. I did see a few, but I shop on thriftbooks.com and they were expensive there. So I don't know, maybe I'll find one that's well reviewed and is not that expensive, but for whatever reason, it's a little bit hard to learn a lot of details about Bela Lugosi. I think he was a fairly secretive person, or private person, let's say. Boris Karloff was too. I read his biography, but he had some people who were really close to him, which helped color his life. I don't know what the story is with Bela in terms of that, but if you guys know more about that, let me know. I'd be curious to read a good biography of his. But this is not a biography. But it is a little bit like a biography, because you get a picture of a bunch of the movies that he was in, beginning from, or published in 95, by the way, beginning in, from Dracula, really. So entering the realm of sound. So it talks just a little bit about his pre-Dracula days. I mean, it does. There's kind of a chapter about several of those. So that gets kind of covered in the first chapter, and then you're on to Dracula, and then it takes it, or everything that comes after that. There's a lot. There's a lot that comes after Dracula. Dracula was 1931, I think, and he died, I think it was 1956, and he made many, many more movies after that. I don't personally think it was all downhill from there, but there's a lot of kind of sentiment from what I've absorbed about him that Dracula was I don't know, maybe his peak of fame or something. And there are a lot of movies before that too. He made a lot of movies in Hungary, and then in Germany, and then in America during the silent era. He made several. So he was part of. And then the talkies came along, and Dracula was pretty early on in the era of talkies. But what you get here, okay, I didn't know I was going to finish it because, first of all, the font is small for my tastes. A lot of good pictures in here, by the way. It's smaller than I wished, but this is a good price. I probably got it for like $5 or $6 on thrift books. I like to do that. Get used books that are $3.99. Get used books that are good price. Give them a second life and not spend too much money. The font's a little small, and when it goes film by film, so it really discusses. It's like each writer talks about the film in his or her own way, and how Lugosi fits into it. But you might spend a couple paragraphs on another actor that was in the film and his history, and each person writes differently. So, it wasn't totally honed in on Bela Lugosi, but since I have a general curiosity for early Hollywood and just early 20th century in general, it was fascinating to me. But if you just want to get Lugosi info, I don't know. I mean, you got to kind of like learn about the whole environment that a person evolved in, no matter who you're learning about. So if you're into Lugosi, this is probably a good thing to have if you like reading too, and you don't mind fairly small font. I don't know what you'd call it, but here's a great picture. This one with, it's Mark of the Vampire, I believe. No, The Return of the Vampire, this one. And, this guy, man, Bela Lugosi did so many movies. He played a lot of different characters, but a lot of them, after Dracula, he did get pigeonholed towards those type of roles, but it wasn't really vampires, because he did more than vampires. Definitely he did magicians, butlers. He played definitely mad scientists, like bitter mad scientists, like a lot of those, like the White Zombie, Murder Legendre character, like people who want this guy wants to bring people back from the dead, or make people work for him, or take life force from younger people and use it for his own bride. It's all similar to vampirism and towards mad scientists, insane madmen. I don't know that he played any roles of like a very nice guy. I'm sure he might have, in especially the early days. That was before he was, typecast into horror stuff. He was a lot of diversity. But after Dracula came along, 31, I think it was very hard for him to get a role that wasn't, at least to some extent, like a dark spirit or a losing character or something kind of draining. Like even he did the Mystery of the Mary Celeste, which was like this shipwreck story or something. Not a shipwreck, like a ship murder mystery thing. But he was, again, kind of a madman. So he got kind of stuck in that type of role, which Boris Karloff said, that he wasn't upset about Frankenstein typecasting him because it gave him a long career. So I don't know exactly what Bela felt about Dracula typecasting him, because he did have a long career, but many would argue apparently that his career kind of after Dracula, he did pretty decent in the 30s, but in the 40s began to decline with a lot of Poverty Row pictures. And then in the 50s, that's kind of the Ed Wood era, and most people don't regard those films highly, and I've given them a chance, and you gotta take them for what they are. But I like campy stuff, and like some people, they reviewed Spooks Run Wild, I think, and Ghosts on the Loose, or they mentioned them. I had those on VHS, those 1940s kind of comedy horror movies with the East Side Kids. Those are Monogram pictures, most likely. Monogram being a Poverty Row, like movie house. Meaning Poverty Row just means like they shoot the film really quick. They try to like cut budget everywhere they can, and so things might look cheesy. They kind of like skimp on the effects. They skimp on the script writing, on the actors, and the editing. It all, you kind of feel like it's low budget. But I love that stuff, so that never bothered me. I just knew that it wasn't like a Hollywood masterpiece. But those low budget movies, not all, some are actually awful, but low budget movies always inspire me as a creator, because it kind of makes me think like, oh, I could do something like that possibly, So that never bothered me. I thought Spooks Run Wild and Ghosts on the Loose, anything he did with the East Side Kids, or the Bowery Kids, depending, was great. The film quality is hard to watch, unfortunately. Some of those Poverty Row movies and some of the movies he's in at a certain period, the film quality is just really hard to watch. So, you know, that's kind of a shame. Doesn't necessarily mean the movies would be bad, but like I said, the film quality of the sound might be difficult to watch and listen to. Hard on the eyes. Okay, so did I learn about Bela Lugosi? I would say, yeah, a lot. And of course, I was watching Bela Lugosi movies and interview clips and stuff like that as I was checking this out, as I was going through the book. And it took me weeks and weeks, months to read it, because I was reading 4 books at one time, and like I said, the font, I could only read a few pages at a time. But I really delved into that, his library of work, seeing interviews. He's a beloved guy to me and to many. Definitely this only helped that. I saw the truth of the man a little more, you know. He had his weaknesses, his human struggles, married 5 times, drug addiction, alcohol addiction, egoism, you know, his share. But his son, who he had late in life, his son Bela Lugosi Jr., you know, most Americans would say Bela in general when talking about his name, but his son, I'm going to say it American style, Bela Lugosi Jr., speaks highly of his dad. So whatever his, you know, Bela Lugosi's weaknesses were, they weren't enough to like spoil his relationship with his son or anything. So that's, his son honors the legacy and everything. Yeah, and I don't know, there's like this footage of Bela Lugosi getting out of rehab in 1955, I think it is, after he volunteered himself for a program for 3 months. And he's so cheerful and direct and honest and very optimistic and good soul. I know, I have an affinity for him. What can I say? Reminds me like one of my relatives from Norway. You know, I had various relatives in Norway when I was a little kid, and they had this little bit old world way of speaking and relating, and it reminds me of that when I listen to him speak. So that's it. My throat's a little bit, sorry, I have to keep clearing it. Sorry about that. All right, well, it's all for now. Do I recommend it? You know, if you're a Bela Lugosi lover and you love reading, you don't mind a small font, go for it. I thoroughly enjoyed it, but there was a little bit of a challenge to get past reading the plot of each movie. I wasn't necessarily interested in sometimes, but I didn't want to miss any good stuff, and no regrets. But you'd really gotta want to be interested in this stuff to read the whole thing. To have it as like a reference, that might be cool too, just to check out your favorites. You know, what does it say about Mark of the Vampire? What does it say about White Zombie, Son of Frankenstein? The more popular ones. But then there are a lot of ones that are not popular ones that you might not really want to know about, you know. But Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein, that was a great bit of info there. You learn about him and what was going on in Universal and the horror pictures and the rivalry between Boris Karloff and maybe a little bit with some of the other guys, maybe Peter Lorre too. Peter Lorre was also Hungarian, so you'd think there'd be some great connection, but Peter Lorre and Boris Karloff got along well, and there was a rivalry between Boris and Bela, so that was a little bit complicated. Anyway, that's all for today. Enjoy your day, your week, your whole summer, man, or whatever season it is you're watching this. Ciao.